members of the Board of Trustees, Chairman Jay Devine, Dr. Miranda, faculty and graduates, thank you so very much. I am honored and humbled. And congratulations to Bill and Mike. Our community is better because the two of you are in it and for the work that you've done. And congratulations to you graduates. I'm pretty psyched to be with you today. And to be marking this milestone and to walk with 10,000. Congratulations, this is cool. You have spent endless hours and brain power to get to today. To get this education and this degree that will lead you to a career or advance you in your career and lead you to a successful and hopefully great job that makes the most of your talents. Now, I'm a big fan of education. I am continually trying to learn and lifelong learning. I think that's one of the reasons why I love my job so much, is because I am learning something new every single day. But more formally, as Dr. Miranda said, I am working on a degree in pastoral counseling. And just recently, I had a class that began. This was the very first day of class. And we all race in, and the professor says to us, he says, so I know you were all just racing to get here, and some of you were stuck on the Schuylkill Expressway, and some just got into a fight at work, and somebody's angry with their spouse, and you're running across the campus, and you're not really sure where the room is, and you're gathering all your books, and in the middle of campus, you see a fountain, and you see a 2-year-old drowning. What do you do? Of course, we all look at each other. Even now, we're like, okay, that's just a pretty no-brainer, right? We got this. You stop and help him. And the professor said, are you sure? Because you had a lot on your mind and you're racing to class, and we said, absolutely. And he said, well, tell me why. And there were a lot of religious beliefs represented in this classroom. And he said, is it because you're taught that that's what you should do? And we said, no, it's because it's really at your core. We would absolutely stop and help. And he said, are you absolutely sure? I'm going to ask you one more time. Are you all in agreement? We said, yes, yes, yes. And then he said, in this world, a child dies of starvation every 7 seconds. So what are y'all doing sitting here in the classroom? It was a powerful reminder of the need that exists, but what it set up was one of the main topics of our class, which was, how much of ourselves do we give? And that answer is individual for each and every one of us. But the bottom line that we can all agree on is that the need is great, and we are called to respond. And many people do respond, and I know that you have already responded, graduates, with the work that you have done here in the volunteerism. A lot of people already out in the community say they respond by giving back. That's a term that we often hear used, giving back. But I would suggest that even if we were given very little, because giving back, doesn't that suggest that we got something first? Even if we were given very little, that we would give, because the desire to give is on our hearts. My automatic signature on my email says, here to serve, and I take a lot of ribbing for that. But really, if we're not here to serve, then what are we here for? And service is about giving of yourselves, and again, I know that you have all experienced that to some degree already by your work here. And even though it's not our motivation, the truth is that when we serve, we get back so much more, which is another thing that you hear a lot, right? I get back so much more than I give. But what does that mean? Well, we often learn or share a skill. We're given incredible perspective, I think you'll agree, on our lives, which reminds me of a story just the other day. A woman talking to a friend who was having a lot of difficulty, complaining about everything, like just the weight of the world. And she said to him, okay, so here's what you do. You're going to go down the hill, take a left, that place right by the Wawa, you're going to go in there, there's going to be a guy behind the counter. You're going to give him your troubles, he's going to give you a bag of somebody else's, see how you do with that. Whenever we get to see people living in a different way, we realize how grateful we can be with our lives. And perhaps the greatest thing that we get from service is enrichment with relationships. Without relationships, think about it. Our lives are nothing. I just wrote a paper about how solving hunger is not about food, it's about relationships. And I'll tell you why that was the title, because ask Bill Clark at Philabundance and he'll tell you, even though they do all the food drives, he can get more food. What he has a hard time doing is getting the volunteers at the 500 locations where they distribute the food, because they just don't have enough volunteers. And anyone who cultivates volunteers will tell you, how do you develop a good volunteer? It's by getting them into relationship with the people that they're serving. But that's not always easy because we have a lot of barriers. In fact, even the model of charity, despite its intention, sometimes puts a barrier, right? Because we're the givers, the haves and the have-nots, we're handing down to someone, so they're already at a different level. In order to be in relationship with people that we serve, we need to see them exactly as ourselves. We need to see them as Jesus sees them. And it can be a challenge, because I know they might look differently than we do. And I'm sure that when you first came to this campus, there may have been people who looked differently than you do. But what did you learn? You learned that we're still pretty much all the same, right? But the people we serve could have different lives, different values, different priorities, but they're just like us. Our hearts are the same. And we tend to classify them, which makes them faceless to us. We put them in categories: the poor, the hungry, the homeless. That sort of keeps them at arm's length. And if you're honest with yourself, oftentimes there's a teeny little voice in the back of your head that maybe once has said, they're probably here because they made a mistake. They're probably here because they did something wrong. Yeah, I'm here to tell you that I've done a lot of things wrong. So again, they're just like we are. And sometimes we do things with an eager heart, but let's admit to ourselves too that, hey, the pat on the back, thank you so much for being here. That's always nice when we serve. Bill Golder, who runs Broad Street Ministries, he develops volunteers, and he has an orientation session, and when people come in, he says to them, if you're looking to be thanked, you're in the wrong place. Because the people who you're going to deal with have a lot of challenges and have dealt with a lot of challenges long before you gave up your Wednesday TV night. And they're going to continue to have challenges. And while it's really necessary and good that you give, these people don't have a thank you in them. So you need to give selflessly. And my sister reminded me just last night when I was talking about service. She said, serving people also extends to the workplace. So as you get your first job, or maybe get a promotion in the job that you have, or return to your current job with more education and more expertise, I think she's right. A servant attitude will serve you well, and it extends to your career. People who have the thought of serving others, of serving the boss, of serving their coworkers, of serving their customers and clients, they succeed. And as you take your next steps in your career, I would ask yourself the question that we debated in our class: how much of myself can I give? How much is the right amount to address the need? And it's all good, but don't measure how much you're going to give by how many boards you sit on, or fundraisers you go to, or walks or runs you attend, or volunteer nights at the soup kitchen. Measure it by the openness of your heart and the relationships you're willing to have. A child every 7 seconds, which means 68 kids have died since I've been standing here. That can be overwhelming. That is an awesome need, and you might think, what could I possibly do to solve world hunger? I have not been given the gifts, nor have I, to go to Tanzania and dig wells or deliver food. But you have been, through your education and what God has given you, been given many gifts to address the need right in this community, and there is plenty of need here as well. What you can do is look around you, be conscious of those barriers, and look for relationships. I wish you much success and many relationships. Congratulations to you all.